And hello everyone, welcome to Airwoods, a building air quality live show. And I'm Ken, and thanks for your watching us, and thanks for your time. And during the introduction, you are welcome at any time to comment down below and let me know what you are most interested in. Or you can click the product link and directly send us an inquiry along with your questions. Our team is waiting there online, always at your service. Okay, and today I'm going to present a typical clean room. And this clean room could be used as a lab. We call it PCR Lab. Hearing this, I think most of us would be wondering, what exactly is PCR Lab? Well, PCR is short for polymerase chain reaction, and it is a chemical reaction harnessed to detect and identify the trace bits of the DNA. It is a relatively simple and inexpensive tool that will be used every day to diagnose the factor that will impair health. Before the introduction of PCR Lab, let me summarize some of the features here. And one, most of the PCR labs are built in the hospital or some public health impairment control center. And for a standard PCR, normally it will take around 85 to 120 square meters, or sometimes even it will be up to 160 square meters in some special case. Also with a room height of 2.6 meters or above. It all depends on the available space and the lab equipment and the tools. And then a PCR should be built as a clean room by the cleanliness class of 10,000, or we can say ISO 8 class. And its indoor differential pressure shall be strictly controlled as positive or negative based on the room process and cleanliness class demand. So for this part, I'm going to share more in my coming presentation, or you could just simply move your fingers to leave us a message. And now, I'm going to let my partner, Fauna, to show you each detail in one PCR lab. So, Fauna, please. It's all yours now.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Fauna. Welcome to our live show. Now, I will show you how can we build a standard PCR lab. First of all, let's have a look at the picture behind me. Please help to give some details of the picture. Everyone, look at this picture. It is a picture showing what is inside of the PCR lab. It looks clean and transparent. Here, you can see the lab desk, the refrigerator, sample cabinet, and clean bench, clean room lamp under the false ceiling, and the PVC floor. Then the picture on my left hand is the plan of the PCR lab. Here we can clearly view on the process of the lab or what rooms are included in the PCR lab. As you see, the PCR lab typically is involved with activity that include sample preparation, PCR reaction assembly, and PCR execution. And the last one is post-PCR analysis. So basically, the layout of PCR lab can be divided into 4 rooms. And before enter into each room, there is a buffer section to airlock the room, and there is a At the same time, all of rooms share the same corridor, or we can call as PCR corridor. As you see, these 4 rooms should be independent to receive goods from outside or from the other room. And the process of them should be from the first room of sample preparation, and then to PCR reaction assembly, and then to the PCR execution, and finally to post-PCR analysis. Okay, next, I'm going to quickly share with you the function of each room. The first room is sample preparation. It will be used for sample preparation, packing, and storage. Sample and raw material should be passed directly into this room. The second part is PCR reaction assembly, extracting and storing DNA or RNA. This part should control pressure to avoid aerosol contamination from the adjacent area flow into this area. And the third part is the PCR execution, which mainly used for DNA amplification. And while the last part is post-PCR analysis, this room will be used for analyzing, registering, and reporting amplified products. Okay, now we get to understand what is PCR. And next, I'm going to talk about how to build an PCR lab. Most of the time, we can divide an PCR lab as below systems. The first one is PCR indoor construction, and the second is PCR HVAC system. And the third one is PCR tube and equipment. And the last one is PCR cleaning. I'm going to focus on the first and second part, as these parts are also the service that we Airwoods provide to customers in domestic and overseas. Actually, here we have helped customers build tens of PCR labs in the domestic market. And the picture address I show you here are one of the PCR labs we have done before. So, if you are interested to build an PCR lab or a clean room, please feel free to send us an inquiry, and our team are here to follow up any of your requirements. For PCR lab construction, we refer to indoor panel of ceiling, partition wall. They should be connected with clean room aluminum alloy profile and sealed with silicone group. And all corners should be buffered with art to prevent dust. And in this picture, you can show this is a door, an observation window, UV passport, and UV light under the false ceiling. Our team combine all of them together based on our professional design and to create a dust-free clean room. Our team offers PCR lab construction consult, lab clean room design, lab construction material, and project installation, and etc. There is a very important factor for all of the PCR lab, which is aerosol contamination or cross-contamination. And the key way to keep with this question is the HVAC system. It's the solution to control indoor air pressure, air cleanness, temperature, and etc., or we call building air quality control. And it's also the way that our team good at. For HVAC system, it mainly consists of air handling unit, outdoor cooling or heating sources, air ventilation ducting, and controller. In order to avoid air cross-contamination with low energy consumption, we recommend to use 100% fresh air system and 100% exhaust air system with heat recovery function. Yeah, this is a very simple air-to-air heat recovery process. The fresh air and retained air are separately. The fresh air heat from the exhaust air to pre-cool from 35 degree to 29 degree with efficiency of 60%, which means our customer can recover power or money from exhaust air. How much power or money we can be recovered, and our engineer are going to offer you a report. And please feel free to send us inquiry if you are interested in. And the fresh air was treated with filter of G3 and F5 pre-cooling or preheating of the air-to-air heat recovery and cooling coil in the HU. Then introduced to each of the room by the ventilation ducting, while each room also exhausts the air independently to outside. In the exhaust air outlets should equip with primary, secondary, and heat pump filter to avoid contamination from outside. Normally, the indoor temperature should be kept at 20 to 26 degrees and 35% to 60% relative humidity. So, how to make each room of the PCR lab with certain air pressure? The answer is the controller and project site commissioning. The fan of AHU should use variable speed time fan and a manual or electrical air diffuser and exhaust air port by PLC control and project team commissioning. We create a differential pressure for each room according to customers' demand. To be an important part of the lab, tube of cleaning working booth, lab desk, refrigerator, eye cleaning, sample cabinet should also be equipped based on the needs of the lab. Finally, in order to maintain cleaning of the lab, the fixed and movable UV lamp is also necessary for the lab. Okay, everyone, that's all my presentation, and welcome to my colleague Ken. Please welcome Ken.
Okay, and thank you, Fauna. Thanks for your professional introduction to the PCR lab. And when you talk about the PCR lab, when you talk about the process of the PCR, some of our audience are still a little bit confused about its process. So could you kindly give out a more detailed introduction to the process in the room? And as you can see that we have and could you give some introduction about the room process on this drawing, so that our client would know more about the whole process? Okay. So I would like to know, and where is the material coming from? Coming to the.
Coming from the
Oh, this is the PCR door.
material come from the passports.
Oh, and here, the people would come from this door and go into the buffer room, right?
Yeah.
And then they will go
then
into each space.
each-
And it seems that each room would have one buffer, right? Is this
Yeah.
necessary?
Yeah. 4
Okay.
rooms and has 4 buffers.
Okay, so we will need a lot of space to set this buffer room because we will need totally 4 buffer room here. And then, how about the material? And when the material come into this door, and they will come into the room by passport.
Yeah, by a passport to
But
transfer to indoor.
yes, but I could not find a passport here from the corridor to this room. And is it okay if I set 1 passport here?
Yeah. It's
And-
okay to set 1 passport.
Okay.
Okay. Here
Okay,
also.
so here another one.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a great idea, and it is very convenient to set 2 passports here, and so that the material will just get into the room while the passport, instead of going into the bathroom first and then go into the lab. Okay, and thank you. And so, as I know that you are now processing some PCR lab projects from all around the world, right? And so you got a lot of experience from this project. And so, I am sure that you have a lot of ideas to share with us, but time is running very fast. So, and now, just a minute. Now we have a couple of questions that we received from the audience, and then I would appreciate your help to answer the question for me. Okay. And thank you. And so, as your introduction right now, you talk about 4 topics, right?
Yeah.
And number 1 is what is PCR lab used for, right?
Yeah.
And number 2, what does PCR lab consist of, right?
Yeah.
And number 3, where do you need the PCR lab?
Yeah.
And number 4, how to build a PCR lab?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
right, and that's a great topic here. And okay, here let's check the question we received from our audience. So, and let me see. And question number 1, one of my friends is asking, I have a plan to build a PCR lab, but I only have about 80 meters of 80 square meters of room space. And 80 square meters, it seems that is too tight to set all the 4 functional room there. So could you give me some suggestion? What shall we do? Okay, do you have any suggestion to my friend?
Okay, Ken, thanks for your question. Well, we understand that some of our customers don't have much space for PCR. For such cases, we suggest that you can combine the PCR execution and post-PCR analysis room to combine into a big one. It's not a perfect design, but I think it's work for your problem. And if you could send us information and we can track detail for use, okay?
Okay. So you mean that from this drawing, you mean that we could combine the PCR execution room and the post-PCR analysis room to be one big room, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, that's really a good idea. It seems that it is a the best way to solve the problem of my friends. And thank you. So I know that room space is always a problem of our customers, right? You know that. And okay, let's get down to question number 2. One of the audience is asking, so I would like to know what differential pressure I shall keep in each room. So could you specify the value of the differential pressure for each of the room?
Yeah.
And we can talk about it from this drawing.
As you mentioned, the differential pressure. So in this first sample preparation, it should be keep positive pressure with 10 to 15 pa.
10 to 15 pa positive pressure.
While PCR reaction assembly room, it should also keep positive pressure with 5 pa.
Okay, 5 pa positive for the PCR reaction assembly room. Okay. And next?
And the next is PCR execution. In this room, they should keep negative pressure with 5 pa. Okay.
Negative 5 pa for the PCR execution room, right? Okay. And next?
And the last one is post-PCR analysis. And in this room, normally we should maintain negative pressure with 10 pa.
10 pa negative pressure for the post-PCR analysis room. Okay, and so thank you. So as you introduced right now, this negative pressure or positive pressure shall be realized and kept by the HVAC system, right? So I believe that you are also very awesome and very professional on the HVAC system. And so, okay, I believe that our audience will have such kind of problem or such kind of question about the PCR lab. But you know, time is running fast, and so I'm going to show. Okay. Just a minute.
Some of our audience has some questions.
Okay, another question.
How to control the room as positive pressure and negative pressure? How to make it as positive pressure and negative pressure? Could you give some idea of how to control it?
Okay, and thank you, Danny. So our customers have a question about the negative pressure and positive pressure. How to keep the pressure in the room? So, Fauna, do you mind spare a few minutes more to introduce this part, and how do we realize this differential pressure in the room?
Differential pressure?
Yes, how to realize this is the 10 to 15 pa positive in this room. So how we realize this differential pressure? So,
normally we should use our HVAC system to keep our differential pressure. It mainly consists of air handling unit, outdoor cooling and heating sources, and air handling, air ventilation, ducting, and controller. And in order to avoid cross-contamination with low energy consumption, normally we will recommend our customer to use 100% fresh air system and 100% exhaust air system to keep the differential pressure. Okay.
And so I have a question now. And shall the supply air bigger than the exhaust air, or shall it be less than the exhaust air volume? So which one should be bigger, the supply air or the exhaust air?
You mean the...
So the air volume, the supply air flow or the exhaust air flow, which one should be bigger so that I can keep the positive pressure indoor?
regarding to positive, supply air should be supply air volume should be bigger and larger than the exhaust air.
Okay, so it would be the same situation for this room, the second room,
Yeah,
right?
the first room and the second room.
Okay, so I can imagine that the exhaust airflow in these two rooms would be less, would be bigger than the supply air volume, right?
Exhaust air should
Should
bigger
it be
than
bigger? Yes.
supply
yes.
air in these two rooms.
So I understand now. And what kind of, as you mentioned that you talk about the heat recovery in this HVAC system, right?
Yeah.
So I would like to know, is it possible or do you suggest the plate heat recovery?
Yeah. Actually, we will recommend our customer to use heat recovery because it will help us save more energy from the exhaust air and reducing the costs. Do you know it will save more? It will save more energy. Okay.
That's a great idea to add the heat recovery in the HVAC system because, as you know, the supply air and exhaust air flow would be very large. So we can imagine that how much we can save from the energy recovery. So, but talking about the HVAC system, I have a question. Is it okay if I just used one air handling unit, one system to serve all the area or the room here? Is it okay?
It's okay, but in this age, from the last decade, we will use separately different air conditioning to serve each room. And now we can use our air handling unit to serve all of the room with the middle filter and heat pump filter to control the exhaust air.
Okay, that's really a great idea because I think that with only one system, we would save a lot of money during the investment. So thank you. So Fana, thank you for your introduction. So time is not much less, so I'm going to summarize today's topics, and then I would like to. Okay, and if I believe that many of our customers would have the same question or some other special situation in their projects, and so I sincerely invite all of you to send us inquiry along with your question on Alibaba. Our professional team will be always waiting there to follow up with your case. And so, thank you, Fana. Thank you today for your introduction.
Thank you.
Yes, a very professional and a very young girl. And okay, I have to say goodbye to you now, and thank you for your watching.
Bye. And